Hi, this is Rachel with Fiona Sandwich Patterns, and in this video we are going to be making one of the missions from Missions National Historic Park in San Antonio, Texas. This is a really fun block to sew because there are a few different ways that you can put it together. What I really like about this site is that they used to have frescoes painted on the exterior of the different missions, and there's a really fun festival, I believe it's every March, at the park, and it's called, I think it's called Festival of Light, and they illuminate the missions with what the frescoes used to look like. And then I think they also have some different artists have made some paintings or drawings or whatever, and then they have also illuminated the different missions. So I think that's really fun. So this is very similar to what the mission looked like originally. It was a little bit different. So really use your imagination. You can choose to have it really bold, or you can have what it looks like currently. So I have done one of each. So we're going to put this one together. Actually, it goes this way. So we're going to put this one together, and then you can use this as inspiration and really let your imagination go wild, because the different artists have illuminated it with so many different styles that it doesn't even have to be traditional. So this is going to be really fun to see how you are inspired by the Festival of Light and what you choose to do. So what we are going to do, I've already sewn these together. This is a very time-consuming block. It's very simple, unless you choose to go with more of a fussy cut, and then do take your time, refer back to previous videos that I have done on the topic of how to use directional fabric and fussy cutting and all of that. For these little teeny tiny sections, I did not line them up. You can see if you look really closely, and I wasn't terribly concerned. I was just going for an all over effect. So you can choose to do it both ways, and both are going to come out really phenomenally. Okay, so we have all of our templates already sewn together. I went through numerical order, and now we're going to piece them together. And this should be a short video because we only have 2 seams to do. So I'm just going to repeat what I normally do, and I line up the 1/4 inch marking on my ruler with the sew line. So both of those are right on top of each other. I don't worry about what is going on the outside of the block. Sometimes my printer doesn't print quite so exactly or precisely, so I have just the same method over and over that I always use, the 1/4 inch marking on my ruler, and I don't use an add a 1/4 ruler because it has a little bit of a lip, and I don't want that lip to shift anywhere. I know that if I press down on my ruler and my lines are right on top of each other, or as close as I can get them, it's going to be the same every single time. I also have little grips on the back, and that really helps keep the ruler in place so that it doesn't shift. And I do take my time to make sure that the ruler is exactly where I want it to be. And I find that this is more precise than lining up the edge of my ruler with the dotted line. I also find it more precise than using scissors to cut. So play around with it and find out, what works best for you. Everybody has a different style. I find that this is the best that works for me, and I want something that is going to be precise and accurate every time. Okay, so we have B and C, and what you will need is you'll need to have the blue on the outside of both of the blocks, like this, and then the sky section in the middle, and the 2 kind of turret things will be on either side. So we're going to join B and C together, and I have used glue to hold down all of the little pieces, if you have not watched any of my videos before, do go back. It's a good idea to start with like the national park sign that's included in every pattern. That's a really great one to start with, and you will learn really quickly that I love paper and glue. And the glue really helps to hold the fabric down so that there isn't any sort of shifting. I've tried it without, and it is worth the little bit of extra time and remembering to wash the quilt so that you remove all of that residue, but it really helps to just create a very precise block. Okay, and then we're going to remove the seam allowance tabs. We're not going to remove all of the pieces. Actually, I'm going to remove C6. Those ones will be easy enough to remove. Anything that when pressing the block anything that after the seam allowance is pressed will cover, if that makes sense. I want to remove the teeny tiny pieces. And then let's see, what did I do? I think I pressed this to one side, so that was a little bit unnecessary to do that, but sometimes that's just the way that it happens, right? Okay. And I didn't trim this one up. These ones are nice and easy because the outsides line up and there isn't really anything on the inside of the block that you have to be concerned about. So this is a really great beginner, super beginner friendly pattern because everything is just so straight. I didn't put a pin in the middle and I'm regretting it because my pieces have shifted just a little bit. And if that happens, A, learn from it, and B, I just kind of slide the two pieces in my hands as I'm sewing. I sew a little bit slower and I just move one in whatever direction I need to go. And it was off only by a little hair, but sometimes that makes a really big difference. Okay. This might just even be my shortest video ever. Okay, remove all of these little tab bits. I don't know that I've ever actually spoken to why I remove the seam allowances, but what it does is it just creates a much flatter seam, and then it creates a flatter block because you don't have all of that bulk, and that really matters when you're putting a whole bunch of templates together. You can't really do that when you're sewing inside of the template because you can only fold in one direction. So that's why I press my seams open whenever I can, and I remove the seam allowance tabs. And generally this is also the part where I would remove all of the papers, and I would I probably normally wouldn't worry so much about pressing this open because this is the last seam, but since I'm doing the video, I don't think that you necessarily want to see me remove all of the papers. And then what I do is I also press it with starch, so then it really lays super flat, and I remove all of the papers because sometimes when you're putting your blocks together you need them to be eased a little bit more, and I find that when I have all of the papers together for the blocks, that means I have to remove all of these tiny pieces when I've put my whole the rows together or the quilt together, and there are other things that I would much rather do. Or the other thing is sometimes I find that the papers rip because I need to have it eased anyway. So I find that doing this is removing all the papers after the block is done and then pressing one last press with starch is just the best method for me. Again, there's no right or wrong answer for this. That's just what I choose to do. So here you can see two different ways of portraying Missions National Historic Park. I hope you love this pattern. It's really fun, very creative. Let your imagination just go wild. This is going to be such a fun one to see. So I will catch you in the next video. Thanks for joining. Bye-bye.